So at the tender age of 7, this is actually on the ABC interview, I wanted to actually end my life in a very innocent way. I wanted to go be with Jesus in the moon. I lived in 24 different communes. We begged from the beggars even. We went to the poor people and we were asking them for help. We begged from beggars, but we were broke with a purpose. No one had their own personal wallet, like as far as the adults. Yeah, there was no personal finances.
The collateral for the children of God were the people.
Exactly. I think I've had to learn to love money, which really means to love your own freedom. Getting what you want, it's about becoming what you want. The universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are.
Are you the creator or are you the extractor? All right, I'm so excited for this podcast episode with you, Tamar. Her name is Tamar Edwards. Before I get into this, I want to give a quick disclaimer, okay? We're about to talk about a topic that has many layers to it, okay? There's many different layers that we can go into and discuss. So there might be some questions that come up that you want to ask more of and you want to go deeper into. We're going to primarily choose one specific layer of this topic, okay? So I want to just create a quick disclaimer for that. Tamar Edwards was born in Sweden in 1981. She's an identical twin and the third oldest of 12 children. Her parents were members of the Children of God, living a nomadic lifestyle spanning 4 countries and dozens of communes. Spending her formative years in Thailand and believing that that the world would end in 1992. Her family did little to prepare for living in mainstream society. Tamar and her family faced a different reality when the group disbanded after the leader died in 1994. And they were forced to deal with living in what they refer to as the system. Tamar found yoga at the age of 18, which led her to a career in health and wellness. She taught yoga and fitness in Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco, and had a thriving nutrition coaching practice. She later expanded her career into the relationship, sex, intimacy field. Her most recent personal studies have taken her into financial sovereignty, and she is fascinated with how these topics weave together: embodiment, intimacy, and finances, and is committed to empowering people by learning to use holistic applications for these in everyday life. She currently resides in Maui, where she leads personal retreats and does online coaching while raising her 4-year-old son. Tamar, thank you so much for being a part of this and joining in to share your journey to this point. And the topic of conversation is just so unique that I really just want to start just by getting to know you first and who you are, how you got to this point, and really what was that red pill moment that kind of shook you out of all the indoctrination and limitations that were created in your life?
Yeah. Do you want a little story of just a brief overview of okay.
Yeah, so, for you personally, and then we'll go into what the Children of God is and what their intentions were.
So I grew up I would say when I was 12, I had lived in 24 different communes. So we moved a lot, born in Sweden, Mexico, the United States. My parents had 12 kids during this time. So it was on the move, having kids. My parents, it's important to know the history of them because they joined this Children of God in the late 70s. And they committed their life to this mission, you could say. And one of their things was to not use birth control at all. So they had a lot of children. We traveled all over. And my formative years were in Thailand. So from 4 to 12, I was raised in Thailand. People always wonder oh, how was Thailand? I was I was behind big walls. We weren't really in Thailand. We would go out to give the message. But formative years in Thailand, when people ask about my childhood, it's a lot of different pieces. There's not one home. There's, I had a childhood home. Or when people talk about first, second, third grade, I don't really know what that means. When I was 12, we moved back to the United States. And by the time I was 14, I think the leader died around that time. And the cult kind of slowly disbanded. There wasn't a moment. Some people have a moment where they leave, right? Our family was very young, very big, and everything kind of shifted. And we were left to our own, devices. We had to take care of ourselves. My dad's very smart. He's a math professor now. He quit school. He was studying physics in UC Davis. He quit school to join this community. All his older siblings joined. So he joined. My mom was a searcher. She was going to join a cult regardless. So my dad, thank God, throughout the journey, there's been these, I call them angels. There's been something supporting me to make good choices. And my dad being very supportive to help get us on our feet was a big factor in that. I'll go more into the career that we had, but around this time, around 12, 14, we got put into high school. That was like major shock. Never had been to school, never had been in the public. To just people don't really understand. To put it really blunt, when I was growing up, I knew there was someone out there named Michael Jackson. Like, that's it. Like pop culture, music, anything, we were completely shielded. And that's why they also lived in third world countries. They had a big presence in Brazil, South America, Southeast Asia. The Western countries they were too influential culturally. So they kept us control. We'll call it control. So yeah, big white family in Thailand. We grew up in communes. So yeah, we got put into high school. That was more than everything I experienced at childhood. High school, teenage years was by far the most challenging. 100%.
Like you went to a public high school, a regular public high school at that age. That's correct, because you didn't have any experience until that point. So you just got thrown into the deep end of social awkwardness. I can only imagine.
In Los Angeles, a very mixed, segregated school. I didn't know where I fit in. I'm a tall white girl. I was not with the white kids. There was the Asian kids. I grew up in Asia. There was the ghetto group, the kids that were getting in trouble. I definitely started to resonate with those kids because part of me wanted to escape. So high school was a whole thing. We can get into that. I started clowning.
Clowning? Wait, what does that even mean?
Okay.
Can you break that down?
So I guess it's important to understand that the children of God, they were not into making money. Money was evil. Money was bad. Like everything was bad except for what they were doing, which is absolutely insane. Yeah, money was bad. We barely got by. We barely made it enough we did a lot of, we call it provisioning, just asking people for food, asking people for a place to stay. The kids in the group were definitely part of I call it bait. Like we were, they would show up to, we were the happy face. We were So our cover stories, we were missionaries. And there was some truth to that. We were missionaries. We were telling people about Jesus. It was a radical missionary belief system. But so there was this cover story of who we were. And then there's what went on behind the closed doors. So
since a child, you've been taught to basically be the bait, like manipulate to hook people in to bring in.
Oh yeah. They had a whole system.
Transacting energy, right? In the way that.
So I didn't work. There was no 9 to 5. There was no work, but we had to make money. But one important thing to remember is when people hear the story, it's always there's questions. The world was ending very soon. So
right.
When you have that in mind, a great way to control a group of people, right? When you have that in mind, of course they didn't care about money. Why do we need money? We're going to die soon. So we got by, we lived by faith, which is something I think is ingrained in me to this day, is trusting. We'd ask for food. They would go to the markets in Thailand and literally, and they got used to us. We'd come with our big baskets and they would give us food. One house we lived in was the Colonel of South Thailand. We just asked him if we could live in his house and he gave it. And they were communes, these big homes with 40, 50 people. And so the definition of living by faith was definitely something that they did as far as transaction. So yeah, as a kid, we did a lot of singing. I don't know if you're familiar with kids like busking in the streets. Yeah, we did that. They would create whole singing teams. They would sing and dance and we would get donations, a lot of donations. A lot of canning. Maybe stand outside of a store with the box or whatever. So clowning.
So you were like acting like homeless or houseless, I guess you can call it politically correct. But you're doing the practice of, you called it something differently, but you're just begging for money, essentially.
Yeah, and we begged from the beggars. Even we went to the poor people and we were asking them for help. Like we begged from beggars, but we were broke with a purpose. Like we weren't just we were broke with a purpose because. Yeah, vanity was a big thing. So no vanity, no new clothing, no money that's extra. Just to get by was what we needed. And that was very indoctrinated in us. The scarcity mindset. Very strong scarcity mindset.
Let's talk a little bit now about Children of God in general, right? This started in the 70s. I'm assuming, right? It was the 70s, late 70s.
Or late 60s,
late 60s. Yeah, that's what it was. It was like early late 60s into the early 70s. What if you can just give me a 10,000-foot view summary of the children of God, like why they existed and really what was the goal? What was the
Yeah.
initial intention?
Yeah, and I'm just going to give my own disclaimer here is that I am not a scholar of cults. I'm a product of, so I have my experience. Like my sister wrote a book and she really went into the history and the study of. So if some of my facts are wrong around dates or even things, it's because I haven't been studying it, but I know enough. David Brandt Berg was the leader. He had a vision in the 60s, which that was the time that so many cults were formed. He had a vision to become king of the beggars. So he saw a lot of lost, helpless people, the searching young hippies, which was of that time. This was in California, right? So he had a vision to become, he started collecting people. And again, all the details of the history, I can't remember, or I don't know, but it started in Huntington Beach in California. Then they opened up a ranch in Texas. So it started as just one little thing and it started to grow. It started to multiply. In the 70s, a lot of people started to join. This was the time of radical freedom. They never used drugs. They never used alcohol. Their main vice was sex. There's always something.
Interesting.
There's
Yeah.
always got to be
Pick
something.
your poison. Pick your poison, right?
So as it started to grow and sex was a thing, right? So children started to come on board. I was born in 81. Then leaders, cults are always defined by a few things. Like some people call things a cult, but and I had to figure this out because I didn't know I was in cult till much, much later. Like, oh, that was a cult, right? But a defining thing is having one charismatic leader who dictates things, who really is the control. Because you give all this power to one person, right? And then also cutting yourself off from the world. Like sometimes people call things cults. I'm like, no, because you're still living. You have to cut yourself off from the outside world and be in this thing. So all the adults would change their names. They would come in and change their names. So he would have these visions, a lot of dreams, these dreams and prophecies. And of course, we got to get out of the United States. It's evil here. It's bad. So we dispersed into third world countries. And once kids came online, it became more structured. Oh, and then in the 80s, things like AIDS came around. They got persecution. So they had to tighten up the ship.
I did see that in one of the documentaries. I think it was like in 86 or something, or 87, where they started to get attacked by the media on all the child stuff. And they were like, no, we're actually not doing this.
We're at school.
Nothing really. Yeah, we're just in education. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel very lucky, Otto, that I was born in 81. I did not experience explicit sexual abuse. I feel very lucky that didn't. And some people did, and I feel for them. Again, my story is my story. So I had it better than some people and worse than some people, but there's always people that definitely had it worse than me. And this has always been my perspective of just even being grateful. Like, God, thank God I didn't get that end of the bargain. But people born in the 70s, I mean, yeah, orgies with kids. I can't speak to it because I wasn't there, but I do know that all these things happened. But then it became more like a boot camp. So my experience, got to shape him up for the good Lord. We got to shape him up for the end time. Jesus is coming back. So it was, they especially when we moved to Thailand, it was like being in a little army boot camp. They, let's see, where would I go with this? Like, do you want to get just like a daily?
Yeah, give me just an example what that means by a boot camp. Was like physical labor? Was it, more emotional, spiritual?
It was, so we were separated into groups. And so if you think of a home, there would usually be about 8 adults, 30 kids. So the adults were all having children, right? So you had all these kids online. So a third adults, 2/3 kids, and we were all separated into groups. We lived in bedrooms with bunk beds. So like 6 to 8 people in a bedroom. We wake up in the morning. There's a lot of praising Jesus, which I still love, but a lot of singing. And then breakfast time. You got to remember too that this was a production that needed a lot of work. So yes, a lot of cleanup, a lot of doing the dishes, cleaning, and then our middle of the day was often a lot of, we call it prayer time or word time, reading stuff from the cult leader. They had a tiny bit of school, like very little school. People always ask, what do you learn? How do you learn to read and write? I mean, minimal, but they taught us just enough. And you got to also remember we were moving all the time. So again, it's very confusing. Everything was very confusing. We'd have get out time. We'd get outside and play. They were big on that. And then dinner time. Cleanup was always a thing. So yeah, we were put to work. We were put to work. We would go out into the world to do the ministry, or they had their own library of tapes. Oh, here we go. Their business. Tapes, videos, cassettes. This is back in the day, cassettes, and then the CDs. Is it VHS?
VHS. Yeah.
VHS, yeah. So they, back in the 80s, back at that time, they created their whole production line of music videos. You can even find these. I wish I could show you some online. And so we would go and actually sell those or ask for donations. So that was one of the ways that they made the bare minimum ends meet. And us kids would be the ones also going out quite often. And
was there a thing that when you joined, you had to give all your assets or all your wealth to the group?
Yeah.
Is that what part of it?
No, you had to give it. You had to leave it behind. I think that these are details I don't know, but if someone was really wealthy, they had to give up that wealth and move in. And then within the group, any money that was made, 10% was given to the leader. He was kept in top hiding. People think I lived with him. I didn't even know what he looked like. They kept his face covered. We called him Grandpa. He was Grandpa. The adults were uncles and aunties, and we were the grandchildren, right? So God's grandchildren.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did go. There was a lot of transaction, but it wasn't work in the traditional way. It was a lot of going out and asking for help. The big production center was in Japan, which Japan is very on cutting edge as far as like technology and creating. So they had a huge center. It was like a big school. They actually called the Heavenly City School, huge school. And I think we're even a registered school at some point. And they created these videos and tapes. They had this whole production. So that was one of the ways that they made ends meet.
So a little bit more on this, just before we go into just like some layering, because I think the goal here for this discussion is just to become aware of what kind of structure and framework can happen that can get you stuck in self-limiting beliefs. Like you said, like not everything's a cult, but there are cult-like things, things that are trying their hardest with certain variables to create that. If I can go a little deeper into this entity, this structure that was created, what would you say was the main thing that allowed the creation of such an organization? What facilitated the process to create and indoctrinate a whole generation? Like, how was it facilitated in your eyes?
How was it facilitated? I would say the people who joined, like my parents, they were deeply committed to freedom. The whole philosophy was on love. Like I always tell people, the philosophy was beautiful in the beginning. Live communally, love each other, be in community. But then it was ruled by fear. The world is ending, right? You don't have access to your own sovereignty, right? You are part of this. There's a way that they made you feel incredibly worthless, but also incredibly special. We were the chosen ones. We were chosen, right? Especially the kids. You guys were born into this. At the same time, we were being beat down, unworthy. We were never good enough. No one was good enough. And let me tell you, I was a little angel. They were seduced by love, honestly, and then ruled by fear.
That's a thing. And I can't help but see the comparables to what's happening now in this new age movement. Like there's so much positive things of it. And I think that's how it works, right? You take 90% truth or 80% truth, and then you wrap a little bit of like a ribbon of 20% manipulation and lies to try to keep that control. But I see it happening. And I'm like, ooh, this is a good opportunity for us to discuss what these variables are so that we don't fall into those traps, so that we're not leading ourselves into the same traps.
It's the intention always seems to start pure. And they're trying to, but then within the little micro community that they create, trying to escape this larger evil, they create it within here, within this little community. The same fear, the same patriarchal domination. And it's interesting because I have gone into the new age spiritual communities for sure. I love it.
Too.
And I see it all. It all. There's a part of me that will never give my power away. That's the gem. That's something that I think when someone has grown up like this, if you can take gems from it, then it's beautiful.
That's the way. That's the only way, in my opinion. That's the only way to move forward, is that to see the positive experience that you actually had in that, inside the darkness.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're a proof of concept in a way where it's like it's possible to be able to step into something different and be able to like
Yes,
grow out of those limitations.
100%. Work in progress too.
Work in
That's why
progress.
I'm in your group. It's a work in progress. I'm
It's a
always
journey.
like that. That to me, if I could give some advice to people who've been in this, is stay curious. We were given a gift. You know, a lot of the kids, I call them kids, we're all grown adults now, but we were given a gift. We were raised with our eyes wide open to something. So when we talk about the system, right? The images I remember as a kid, I remember one in particular, it was this illustration of this fat woman, legs spread with a cigarette with, you know, it was the image of America the whore, they called it, right?
Wow.
Yeah. But greed,
Yeah.
gluttony, just the way that the toxic system that we still are in, we were taught about that full on. So that's a gift. It's never been a shock to me when people are like, oh my God, the banking system is like that. I'm like, yeah.
That's where I got really interested in your story, because I remember in one of our lives you mentioned that, and I'm like, oh wow. Imagine growing up in an environment that is teaching that, or that is at least bringing awareness to that, let alone all the, I mean, you know, all the other stuff that's happened is unfortunate, but it's like this one thing I was like very curious about, and like what kind of awareness it brought to you. So if you, go ahead.
I said, eyes wide open, keep that curiosity. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Look for help. There is a wound that needs to be addressed 100%, but I've always been searching and looking and going for help. Some people are hard on themselves, like, they become a victim to their past. And
that's definitely a journey that a lot of people go through, and they hold on to the victimhood because it feels familiar, it feels comfortable, it feels safe. It's like, this is what I've always done, but it's not the way. We have to be able to become aware, to let go, to then step into something stronger. If it's not this, it's something better.
Yeah.
With your unique upbringing, though, what are the gifts and challenges you've come away with? If we can go a little deeper into the positivity, how did how did your experience in childhood shape your beliefs about money specifically?
So like I mentioned, on the negative side, there was major scarcity. Like there was not enough to go around. Something I still am working through, the enough. I'm enough and there is enough. Money is evil. Like money was the root of all problems, and just even wealthy people, anyone who had money or things, just, you know, I think I've had to learn to love money, which really means to love your own freedom. Like,
oh, interesting. I love the way you said that.
Yeah.
Go a little deeper into what do you mean by that when you say that?
So we talk about this in your circles too, is okay, people want money, but what do they really want? Choices, freedom. What does money give you? Choices, freedom.
I always say to do what I want when I want.
There you go, freedom. So if you're trapped, and this is something I've definitely had to face within myself, is it feels more comfortable to feel trapped and controlled. If you grew up in an environment so controlled, much easier to have, even I've gone into partnerships or friendships or business things. When people control me, it feels familiar. It's easy. Tell me what to do. Okay. But what about when there is freedom? When like I've had a few upgrades in my life where all of a sudden I was making more. Even when I started clowning, we didn't go into the clowning thing, but clowning, I was making cash under the table. I was 15. I started working at 15, and I was making, at that time, a couple $100 a day, which now would probably be close to 1,000. I don't know, but it was cash. And so when I've had these upgrades of money, which I didn't grow up with any money awareness, my nervous system has had to acclimate to it. Like even now, I've just gone through a major upgrade. I've done 3 major upgrades. We're like, whoa, my income just tripled. Whoa, my income just, especially with the opportunity that you shared with us, it's like, whoa, money's just coming in now. Like now I have to acclimate to that, because it's very easy, especially when someone, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, when someone has had PTSD. Like it was a sustained fear and trauma that created a system that gets easily overstimulated and overwhelmed. So even good things can feel overwhelming. So knowing where
this is so interesting, because I feel like you're speaking on, obviously we don't want to compare ourselves to each other, compare ourselves to ourselves. Yeah. So I'm not comparing your experiences and traumas with somebody else's, but I feel like we all go through a sort of indoctrination, whether it's coming from the family unit, the education system. You call it
Yes.
little T trauma versus big T traumas.
Yes.
If I can ask a question, what would you say was a way that through the acclimation that your current relationship to money was expressed? Like when you started to get money, what was something that you were doing that you're like, this just feels right to do? And then
Oh,
later you were like, oh, why was I doing that?
I'll just tell you the first time that I even handled money, which I don't know if this is answering your question. There's more to go. But so we would do canning outside of this is when we were back in the United States. We would stand in front of Walmart with a can and get money. I was like 13. And this is where I started getting exposed to things, like even seeing a shopping mall or I was at Walmart, like things. And so I remember I took a handful of change and I went to buy bubble gum because sugar was a big no-no. So I was stealing money from the thing to go buy something that was just completely off limits. And I was like shaking. I was nervous. I went to the store. I was like a juicy fruit. And I went to the store and I took it. I remember I didn't even understand what prices meant. Like the whatever 99 cent. I didn't know that's how innocent I was. And I remember going and she did it up. I didn't even know what she was doing. And then I just threw this handful of change and it was probably like $6. And I said, keep the change. And I ran out just like panicking.
So you almost had, like, you obviously created a relationship with money at that time, but you basically had no relationship. The lack of relationship was your relationship.
Okay, this is way back when. But now as I started to make more money in my 30s, I had a big upgrade. I was able to do all these things that I guess I've been on a healing path. So to do all the things that I love to do, to go on a retreat. I have these beautiful sound healing instruments that are very expensive, a biomat that I love. I was able to do these things. And that's where I'm like, I love money for that. Because that's my freedom to go on a vacation to hot springs, like things, acquiring lots of things is not the thing that makes me happy, but doing all the things that I love to do.
If you could look back when you were that age, under 14 years old, what was the thing that you gave a lot of value to? Where you're like, oh, this thing I know is valuable. I know that if I give it to somebody, they're going to experience value being given to them. Was there anything like that? Or was it you were the value? Like you were the thing that you found
value? We had very little things. Like when we moved to the US, we had 2 sets of clothes each.
Wow.
We had very little. My parents had 12 kids too. So it's poverty, but it was a different kind of poverty. Like I said, broke with a purpose. We were, I became very fixated on my body and fixing my body. So when I think of that, I don't remember owning many things at all. I had my twin. We were super close. I became very fixated on my body, and it led me into health and wellness because might as well make your obsession something that you research.
Something that you can actually build on and have purpose in, right? That's always a good path.
I think back under 13, I'm trying to think of things.
Well, it might just be the relationships themselves. It might be the relationship that you had with your twin sister, where if that got taken away, you wouldn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just think it's interesting.
In our early 20s, we kind of split up. I call it a painful divorce we had because we were literally glued at the hip. And she went off to Thailand to do some yoga teaching. And I remember for about 6 months, I could barely function. I felt like my arm and leg had been amputated because we were so connected. So
I wanted to get your perspective because for a lot of people, I think because of our own little T traumas in our own little cults, these things we call cults, it's money. The thing that they feel the most value towards is this currency. And I think the majority have created a relationship of externalizing self-worth and value to get more of this currency thing. So because you had no relationship to it, I was like, what was your purpose? What was it that you were waking up every day for? And like after?
Interesting question. Yeah, I would say there were so many people around. There were so many people. And I think that was one of the gifts. You got to always take the gift is that we grew up in such community and there wasn't a lot of time to externalize things. We didn't have things.
So you were raised inside a situation where the main, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the main currency was the energy of exchange. Was this helping each other out? What can I do for you? How can we support each other? That kind of thing.
Yeah, this is a good thing to talk about. So no one had their own personal wallet. Like as far as the adults. Yeah, there was no personal finances. Like in these homes. And then also they would move people around and we wouldn't make those choices. People would just tell, okay, Edwards family, or they had symbols. We were the Star family. I don't know. Cults have weird things, but they would just make us move here and make us move there. And geez, and we were in Thailand. We had to go every 3 months down to Malaysia to renew our visas because we were foreigners. Although I don't know how we did it. I do remember 8 kids, my parents, 8 kids on a train, a dinky train in Thailand, traveling from the north to the south, all the way to Malaysia, renew the passports, come back up. I should ask my parents how they did it. I don't know. It was very minimal and very living by faith.
Wow.
I was going to say too, when I share my story, I always say, I'm not special. Everyone has had trauma. Being in a human body is traumatic. Being born is traumatic. It's just, that's our human experience. That's one of the lessons of being embodied, is this body. And trauma is held in our bodies, right? The issues are in the tissues. The body keeps the score, right? So being in this body, no one can escape the trauma that is having a body. At the same time, there's so much joy and pleasure, that we can experience. That to me is the awakening process. But I just have a very cool and unique story. So I'm not special because I have this. We all have that trauma and stories that we are here to recreate and heal from. Mine just has a very sensational story tied to it.
Yeah. You had a very specific experience. But I think there is a lot of relatability. I think that we can
100%.
listen to we can hear your story and go, how can I relate to this? And see the things in our lives that we've become dependent on, the things that we are, externalizing that value system towards and need, because if we don't have that thing, who are we? I can see how that can be relatable.
Really. I will say this, in the cult, they were very big on non-attachment. So if there was any sign of anyone getting attached to something, they would, I'll give you an example, things like our hair. So it was very natural look, grow out your hair. We never did any hairstyles or anything. But at one point, the guys started to grow long hair. Guys have long hair, and it's a thing. The guys with the long hair, and it started to become like a thing, like attachment to the hair. So they made everyone cut their hair off. So if there was any attachment towards anything, they wouldn't. Again, we were being surveillanced constantly. Yeah. And or if they notice a clique start to form, if kids start to become friends with a certain group, they broke that up. So nothing could be personal. It had to be all just like the same, and everyone had to. So there was on the money thing, there was no personal wallet. There was there's 3 shepherds in the home, and usually one person took care of the finances, so everything was reported. Again, a lot of details I can't really know because I was a young
That's
kid.
So interesting. The way you describe that is, because I do have these things that I talk about when it comes to ownership, because I do believe that in the public sector, ownership is very fragile, and that we all really need to start practicing, or at least become aware of where we are on the spectrum of ownership. Because there is, like, on one side of the spectrum, there is this like possession-based ownership, or maybe that's not the right word to say, because that is a thing. More like when you feel like you're an elite, what's the privileged, that's the word. Like I'm privileged, and this is mine. This is my thing and nobody else's. So I can see the extreme of that. And then on the other side, being like the steward, right? We're like, no, we're here to steward the land. We're here to steward the things that are around us. But I can see now that there's a layer there that I didn't realize on the extremity of that. Because like what seems like you're saying is that they wanted to practice stewardship, but way too extreme, to the point to where you couldn't create relationships.
And within that, the people that were because there was hierarchy of leadership, there was the leader, and then there was people that would oversee different areas like North America, South America, because it was international. But within this stewardship of the common people, there was people on top that were incredibly controlling over what was happening, number one. And if you think about transaction, like what is most valuable is people and energy. So the transaction was the people.
Yeah.
With cults like this, the patriarchal cult, kids and women are the ones that get most affected. And me being a kid and a female, it's the sexuality piece, the abuse piece, all that stuff. So we were the transaction. Honestly.
I was going to say that the collateral for the children of God were the people.
Yeah.
What does that sound like? What does that sound like? The monetary system.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. It's relatable. Like we're all experiencing that on different levels. So I think, like I said, I think the important thread here to pull on is just to become aware of these variables and like, what are they and what is actually happening in our own individual lives that can lead us to limiting ourselves. I think that's the key. I think the big difference is that there's no really, in our situation or my situation, there's not really anybody like forcing me to do this.
Right.
I've been doing it to myself. You had people forcing you. That's where it became a cult. That's where it was like, if you don't do this, you're going to get whatever punishment. That's when it starts to get too tight into this cult mentality, this cult space. But I think that we can all become aware of what are the things that are creating the paths of self-limitations, like where we do it to ourselves.
Exactly. And I will say, people often ask as a kid, how was that? I get this question a lot. Oh my God, how was it growing up like that? I don't know any better. Children are resilient in that way. We are impressionable. We're not judging the world around us. We're impressionable. As a kid, I always, even within all that was going on, I remember you're trying to find wonder. The imagination of a child is, you can't really smother that completely. So, yeah, even with me and my sister.
Sorry, finish your thought there.
First it was laughing, being silly. We get in trouble for that. There's a lot of verses in the Bible about foolishness and beating kids for foolishness. Anyways, foolishness is my worst quality, and that was I get in trouble for, which now my laugh is the most treasured thing. No one shut down my laugh because I have the cutest little giggle. No one shut that.
Like silliness. You're talking about like silliness?
Silly, yeah, and I'm just a silly person. I love being silly. I'm Sagittarius, super silly. And me and my sister, being a twin is just silly. It's silly.
Yeah.
You have someone that looks like you. And so eyes of wonder too, not throwing that baby out is, I think there's eyes of wonder. Like I said, when someone has healed their childhood trauma, especially with this extreme, there's a part of you that you recapture. So trauma literally happens in those first formative years. So there's a part of you that gets trapped there. And when I look around the world, what I see a lot is a bunch of traumatized children, adults that are traumatized children ruling the system, right? So we get to go back and heal those parts of us. And again, my story is so extreme. I love that it's so clear what I'm healing. It's so clear.
Side is 2020, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. But then as I heal these parts, I get to take this little child and she comes online and there's this little child that has eyes of wonder that will never be closed and will never. And I live that way. My friends love that about me too. I'm just like, there's a part of me that really is like a young child, like really curious about the world and not shut down to new ideas. It can sometimes get me taken advantage of, but whatever.
And that speaks to your own growth. Because I had a question before I ask the next one. Is this cult still exist, or is it completely disbanded now?
It's disbanded. There's loose ends here and there, but there's no one. They did put out a big apology letter at some point, but they also said they changed their name a lot. It was the Children of God to the Family of Love to the Family. And then
Family International, I think is still
TFI, the Family International.
Yeah, the Family International.
So I don't know if you saw this. If you watch that video, that the ABC piece. So when the suicide happened with Davidito, a lot of people want to point fingers. And first of all, there's no one to sue. There's no money to take. It's like, we want to sue these people. There's nothing there. And then you also just want to have an apology. But the last bit of the group that's even holding it together put out an apology letter, a huge apology letter, which was, I think, good of them. But they also said, for all purposes, TFI no longer exists. There's no one that can take responsibility. So it's disbanded. All the people, like my parents, they're all getting much older, but there's some people that hold on to it with everything they got, right? It was their mission.
Well, it was like you were born into it. You know, it's generations of indoctrination.
Do you know the Phoenix brothers were in it? Phoenix brothers,
no,
River,
Joaquin I know
Phoenix,
you're talking.
Rose
Really?
McGowan. Yes,
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
River. That's why his name is River Phoenix. Joaquin was Leaf Phoenix. But they were until they were about 5, and their parents took them out, and they all became actors. And River died, but yeah, they were born in the Children of God. If you ever read about them, they'll talk about how their parents were in it. And
wow, I did not know that. I asked that question about if it still exists because would you say, are there still people that, it doesn't exist, but they're still practicing. They're still a part of a community, or maybe they're now becoming aware of this and wanting to step out of it and get out of those limitations. What advice would you give someone who's had a similar traumatic experience that you had regarding living a fulfilling life in our current economy, political and social environment?
Yeah, because it can be very confusing.
Especially when you're not taught like how to do it, right? You have to figure it out.
I always tell people this, even more than being raised that way, coming out into the world has been by far more challenging. Raised that way is one thing, but you're in a bubble. We were in this bubble. It was abusive, but it was very structured. The abuse was even structured. There was charts coming out into the world, and you don't have the handbook of how to do anything. And even people who were raised in this world, it's still confusing becoming an adult. So my advice was, like I said before, is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some people want to just completely put that behind them. Some people want to ignore it. We can't ignore it. We got to acknowledge it. Where our deepest wounding is, where our deepest gifts are, where the cracks are, where the light comes through. And that's one thing that I've done continuously. To me, I feel like I'm so gifted. Now, I have sisters who are been living on the streets on meth for years. That's where they took it. But people made me like, oh, that's a really cool childhood you have. I was like, no, I choose to make it that way. Stay curious. Again, with those eyes wide open, we were given a gift. We were not raised in this society, this current society. So like I said earlier, we were taught things that are actually, some of it is the truth. If I show you some stuff, you would just be blown away. Things about, AI, they really talked about AI and robots coming online.
Real back in the 80s?
Yes.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
I'll show you
incredible.
a video. There's a video they made, and it was all about AI and robots. This is in the 80s.
Wow.
A song called SOS.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
I got to show you some videos. And that's why things don't shock me. Like even with crisis and chaos, that's one of the things I told you, I think, in the call is this whole thing about end time. There is an end of times that is happening. It's the end of an old paradigm. So when I got into the spiritual communities, I'm like, oh, okay, now I see. Like what I was taught, there is something, these radical fundamentalist, churchy Christian people, they have this thing about Jesus coming back in the end time. But there's a lot of things pointing to this time, this period of time that we're in, that really is the end of times as we know it, the dark ages. So stay curious. Don't throw the baby out the bathwater. Find the gems. We've been given so many beautiful gems, but also do the work and look for help. I've always looked for help, whether it was when I started my healing path and looking for teachers. Always, even coming to you. You're like my finance teacher now. Like I'm very open-minded to, I need help. And yeah, don't ignore it. I know some people who like, oh, that was so bad that I don't even want to acknowledge that happened. And that's,
I feel like that happens. I feel like that right there is what most people do with any kind of trauma, where they try to avoid, right? If you're going to avoid the experiences you have by suppressing or not feeling the emotions, drugs or whatever, then you're not fully expressing that experience or integrating the experience. And I see that you've done that. You've definitely done that. But it can, there is this path, this trap, right? This path that I think people go down of the self-limitations and like, what can I have the capacity of doing? I know that from the children of God, suicide rate is very high. There's a high suicide rate.
Yep. And I'm not going to lie. I've definitely been in crossroads where I did not want to be here. And here's one thing that's interesting. To be a little kid and to be taught that we were going to die soon, you are very in touch with your mortality. Like even to this day, this is a gift. So within that, what the fuck were you teaching kids that for? Within that gift, I'm very in touch with that. This is not going to last. And that for two reasons that makes it very powerful, because when things are really rough, when you're going in the dark night of the soul, there's something going on, there's a knowing that it's going to be over. Some people don't even have any conversation to my teacher calls it, you need to talk to your dying. You are dying. But one thing we all know is that we're going to die. It's like, as far as our future is concerned, what do we all have in common?
This is a real thing. I had my own experience with this. I couldn't talk about my dad dying for years and years. And then eventually I had to work through death and this acceptance in our own bodies of death. It's a thing. I do see it as a gift to be exposed to that so young. I don't know how you were exposed, but I think that doing that process of exposure to death, I think is important.
And then when things are going really well, to really appreciate it instead of just more, I want more. It's like, this is also, this is temporary, this experience. So we lived they were very instilling in us that one of the songs, this world is not my home, I'm just passing through. And the Antichrist was going to come, which, I mean, every evil person that has risen in power was maybe the Antichrist. Ooh, is that the Antichrist?
It's Elon Musk right now. This is this generation's Antichrist is Elon Musk.
I'll just, as far as like what was going to happen, because some people don't even know this, is Jesus was, the world was going to go into chaos, absolute chaos, lake of fire, which when the fires happened in the Bay Area, I'm like, huh.
Is this the beginning? Yeah.
Fires. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what, when crisis and chaos happen, I'm just like, yeah. And then Jesus was going to come back. And Jesus was a hot looking guy. I mean, it was very sexual too. Like everyone was wearing see-through clothing and everyone very sexual. He comes on a horse and he picks us up, the chosen ones, and we go live in heavenly city in the moon.
Oh, wow. That's very specific. I didn't know that.
Very
On the moon.
specific. Heavenly City, I know, again, I can find some of this. It's hard to find these days because it was all, this is all stuff that was done on, not digitally, it was all on paper. But they have all these diagrams of what this Heavenly City was like. It was a big pyramid, it was a big triangle in the moon, and they had different quarters, and it's the place of freedom. And yeah, everyone's clothes are see through.
These are visuals that they created, like for like a was it like a pamphlet or something like they put out on a weekly basis?
Posters, videos, tapes. I get a huge library, but again, they would have, oh shoot, we got to burn it all, so they burn it all. Like
right, I heard that.
Yeah, so things would happen. They're like, oh, we got to burn that. That literature is too risque. We got to burn that literature. But a lot of very sexualized things, 100%. So here's interesting. Me and my twin are a great case study because we're identical twins, grew up in the same environment, in this 12 kids, twins. Identity's been you talk about identity a lot. Like, I'm pretty good now. I'm now 44. I've worked on this a lot, but I did not have an identity. I did not know. With a twin, we called it a We-dentity. It was us within 12, within a compound, within a cult. Like, it was these layers of no sovereign, autonomous being.
Yeah.
So me and my twin are very interesting case studies. So where I went with it, this whole we're going to die soon, I was like escapism. I want to get there soon. I want to experience that bliss that's going to be out in the moon. My sister was terrified of the Antichrist. She would go to bed crying. She was really scared because it could come at any time. Someone's going to knock on our door and they were going to come. It was this very, again, a lot of fear. It was very descriptive of something big and bad was going to happen, and then Jesus was going to come save us. I wanted to get there sooner. So at the tender age of 7, this is actually on the ABC interview, I wanted to actually end my life in a very innocent way. I wanted to go be with Jesus in the moon.
Yeah. So, not running away from something, but like running towards something.
Yeah, right? Like, can we just not do the whole Antichrist thing and like kill us? Like, my sister, she thought a lot of how we were going to die. Like, how was it going to be with a gun? Were they going to like how? Because we had to get to the moon somehow. We were going to become spirit beings, but how was the death going to happen? So I was like, I want this to happen sooner. And then in my adult life, I would say 2 or 3 times I've had in extreme like suicidal ideology. Basically, it was a way out of the pain I was experiencing. Like, I take my life, but never really went there. But yeah, it was, I think, to be so in touch with your own death and think that like, well, it's going to end anyways. And then just the pain, the trauma and pain that we went through was no joke.
So let's go a little bit into, let's shift this a little bit from the Children of God conversation. Let's go back to you. Mm-hmm. You are, I think, is just a great example of what someone that has gone through that kind of situation, what you have the capacity of becoming, right? When you left it and become your own individual. You went ahead and, like you mentioned earlier, you started doing different things, clowning. So we still don't know what that, just talk about it real quick. So is it just like makeup and then you do clowning in front of kids?
So again, the cult was very creative in how they made money. And as things started, this was after things disbanded. So now things disbanded. I think people are like, okay, what now? So clowning, I don't know how or where it happened, but someone, and they also like to do things to make money, but that was also inspiring. Being a clown is fun. And everyone had moved back, not everyone, a lot of people moved back to the United States. We were now the Western countries. So our experience was around 14, 15, clowning, balloon twisting became a thing. So my dad, me and my twin sister were the main ones, but of our family, there's about 7 of us that all became clowns. And what we did, we put on makeup, we had our outfits, and we would do balloon twisting at malls, at fairs, balloon parties. And it kind of became my career for the next 7 years. So that was my first career move.
Wow.
Talk about my career.
I haven't shared this publicly, but before I got into crypto, okay, this was like my transition between being an accountant and going into crypto and doing that full time and acting and stuff in the West Coast. I did children's parties and I would dress up as Batman or Spider-Man, or I have all the pictures. I can show it to you. I was a clown a few times.
Did you do magic?
Huh?
Did you do magic?
I did. No, I did balloon animals.
Yeah, oh my God. So I know how to do like 12. I did characters like the mermaid. Sometimes they pull me in a little wagon. I was the little mermaid or the princess, but mainly I was a clown. balloon twisting. I still do it to this day. I pull it out and I do twisting balloons. It's the
Me
coolest thing.
too. Me
Face
too.
painting, and we made good
Yeah.
money. Good money.
Yeah.
So that was my
Dude,
first career.
it's a thing. Every children's party, I'd make $250, $300 at every party. I'd
Yeah.
have to be there for an hour. It's
Yeah.
not bad at all.
No.
But that's not what I wanted to go down that topic. I just wanted to know what clowning was. But you went and started pursuing this intimacy coaching and sexual coaching. And you went down this road of like how to help couples in their own journeys. I think it's a really interesting vein you went down, because one of the things that I teach on is around sexual energy is on the same vein as creative energy. It's like a fine line.
It is creative energy. It is creative energy. It's totally not separate. Sexuality has nothing to do with the act of sex. Sexuality is it's here first. It's with you first. But yes, keep going. You're speaking my language.
So I want to know, because it is so close on that vein, do you believe that because of your experiences growing up and the limitations that were created in your life around the energy of exchange and like being the creator, that's one thing that we talk about in our academy is, hey, you can practice the relationship of being the extractor or the parasite, or you can be the creator, the one that is using tools to express through and have creation expressed through. You went down this road of creative energy, I feel like, and that's where you landed. Would you say that's what facilitated that? What inspired you to go down that road? What was it that pulled you towards this specific topic to coach on?
Yeah, I would say each of the topics, which I would say the three main ones have been embodiment, which encompasses nutrition, movement, yoga, all the things movement-based and food-based. It's embodiment. It's how you take care of your body.
Yeah.
And then intimacy and sexuality, relationships, and now finances, financial freedom. Now, all of these three were where the biggest wounding. The wounding is what took me there. So first it was, this about me. I had a severe eating disorder. Though when I came out, I was 13. I'm a tall white girl. I saw magazines and models for the first time. I had control of nothing in my life. And the one thing I control is what I ate. And here we go again about transaction and food and energy. Like people come to me for sex intimacy coaching, and then we start talking about food. Like
what's your relationship with eating first?
Yes. What's connected from here to here? It's your digestive tract. Let's talk about that first. But food, nutrition, embodiment. But that was where I was very challenged. I was felt a lot of pain and hurt and shame. So I had a severe eating disorder. People don't know this who haven't had an eating disorder. The hardest thing, because you can't give up food. You can give up the bottle, you can give up addictions, but with food, our eating disorder is so hard to face and overcome because you got to eat multiple times a day.
Especially here in the US, it's like, food, like that's the poison that Americans usually choose and abuse.
Yeah. And then in my late 20s, and these have all been works in progress, still are works in progress. My late 20s, I was very late in relationships. I think being so exposed to sexuality, and I mean, from a young age, I was seeing sex all the time while we were getting it. The sexual abuse element was that we seen sex and at the same time being abused. It was sexual abuse. I shut myself down. I was like, nope, that part of me does not exist. Not consciously, but I just in my 20s, I didn't date. I didn't even acknowledge myself as a sexual being. Deep inside, there was something very sexual. Everyone is creative, sexual. When I say sexual, I mean creative, like that.
No, I'm on the vein, and I appreciate the clarity because people listening. Yeah.
So then I get exposed to my first relationships. Boom, do my attachment issues come up and my abandonment issues. And you can see from my childhood, the trauma issues around sexuality and intimacy and bonding and feeling worthy and wanted, like all those things. So you can imagine that every relationship I've had has brought up my deepest childhood pain and wounding. So I'm going in and out of, a few significant relationships. And I'm like, there's medicine here. This is so incredibly painful. What's going on? Does everyone feel like they're going to die when they have a breakup? Like, why do I feel like I'm going to die?
I get
like,
it.
What the heck is going on with me? There's a wound here. I feel like if it leaves me, there's nothing here. So I grew up glued to my twin. So feeling alone was very scary. So I get into a relationship, I easily merge and bond, blah, blah. And then I've always chosen unavailable men. Anyways, short answer to your question is, it was the wounding and the realization that there's something here that can't just be taught in school. Like relationships and intimacy, it's a vital part of who we are. Even if you're not in a relationship, you're always relating to people and to yourself. So what did I do? I went to school on that. I went to Somatica Institute, sex intimacy coaching. I've done a ton of other courses around human sexuality, attachment theory, attachment issues, and my own like cult integration, how coming out of that specific thing. And then what do I do when I start healing myself is I want to help other people. So then I got into helping other people, online coaching. I do personal retreats. And then my most recent one is now the money piece. The money piece, I haven't struggled. I feel like I've always been abundant in my way, but it's the whole thing of being even smarter and even more savvy and making, like I said, I was talking to someone recently about this investment project that I'm in, and they said, if you're making that much, why don't you just keep putting in more? And I said, well, because my nervous system needs a chance to adjust to this.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Good for you, Tamar.
I'll be
That's
very
really
honest. I could put in more. I think maybe you're on a different level. I feel very comfortable right here with money coming in with this and this. I feel comfortable right here. When I'm ready to upgrade, I'll upgrade and I'll let my nervous system acclimate because I get overwhelmed easily. And sometimes when too much comes in, I feel a little bit like I can kind of panic.
Wow, that is such a beautiful share on the experience that you're having. And I think it's important to just shine a light on that. Okay, guys, those listening, you had the adultness, just the ability to be able to recognize your own limitations and adjust. For most people, they either get used to the pattern or they get comfortable with where they're at and they just want more. But no, you knew where you were at. And I think that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. Just knowing where our limitations are.
And I would say, again, I've had a few upgrades. There's three particular. I became a clown also when I was making money. And then when I started my own coaching, I started making 3 times of what I was making before. It was incredibly overwhelming. And then now all of a sudden I've expanded quite a bit. And this is where I feel I can actually, have you ever had someone like, oh my God, you want to make $75,000 a month and you can't really wrap your brain around it. Maybe you can, but with some people you have to.
No, I get it though. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, you have to be realistic. Oh, how would it feel to make 2,000 extra a month? Oh, that I can wrap my brain around. 5,000. And then when it gets to be too big, you're like, oh, that sounds stupid or that sounds fishy. So
that's why I asked that question, because I had my own experience with crypto. When I got into the crypto, this was 14 years ago, I got into crypto, and 2 years in, there was like 2 or 3 years in, I was a multimillionaire all of a sudden. And I was like, never have to work again. And just started just spending and expressing my current relationship to it for months, at least a 6-month time frame. I was probably spending between $50,000 to $100,000 a month for months, because I didn't know what it was to be with that much money. I had never experienced it before. Right. But now the second time around, and I wasn't able to secure all that. The $20 million it became, I was able to secure a small part of that. But now the second time around, I recognize that. And I've had people ask me about Copy X, about this strategy that we're in. And they asked me the same question. Why'd you only put $80, $100 in there? I thought you were rich and you had all those. Like, that's not the point. That's not the point. Especially for me, I'm wanting to show that it's possible to start with little and grow it to an exponential amount. But also knowing it's like, I'm not going to let your, lack of knowing who I am and why I'm doing certain things to deter or cause me to perform a different way. I know why I'm doing this for myself.
Exactly. Yeah. Being comfortable. It's where the nervous system, this awakening process, which I'm highly passionate about. The awakening process, it's deeply related to our nervous system and what we can handle, absorb, digest, and stay present with. Trauma, my therapist, she said because of course I'm also so curious about trauma, but the most basic definition of trauma is to not be present. And when I thought of that, I'm like, okay, so when you have a traumatic experience, what happens is you leave your body. There's very traumatic experiences but you become not present. You completely dissociate, right? And then part of you gets trapped there. So that's the extreme. But then when you look around our society and you see everyone you realize that we're in we live in a state of trauma, which is just not being present, not being here, not being in our bodies, everyone on their phone, the screens, that are distracted. And so that, again, there's the extreme trauma. There's also just this basic trauma kind of vibe that everyone's in. That's why I was so
Right.
trying to work. I was like, this is not about making money. This is about the energy of
Would
exchange.
you say that? So, you mentioned earlier that growing up, you knew a lot about what was currently happening with the monetary systems and money itself and currency. Obviously, there was a lot of things taught that created zero relationship to it, but you were at least aware. You knew that it was a thing. Would you say that? Oh, I had the question. I totally forgot what it was. Oh, I forgot the question. I buzzed out on the question.
It'll come back. I'll just say there's a song, and some of this is beautiful. That's what I want to share. There's a song called "It's Going to Take a Lot of Love to Turn This World Around." It's going to take a lot of love to turn this world around. Dun, 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 dun. And one of the lines goes, "The rich keep getting richer, keep on taking from the poor. They loan you $50, they take back 100 more." And they made a video. Is this video? It's going to take a lot of love to turn this world around. I get goosebumps, but that was one of the things that we were taught, and that's the banking system: give you money and take back this much. But it was all about how the system is robbing people. So yeah, we didn't participate in the money exchange, but we were told how evil it is. So we don't want to get in that; it's evil. And then I come out into the world, and I'm like, okay, but I have to be in the money system, and I'm trying to figure it out. But then within the current world that we're in, you hear people talking about the evil money systems. I'm like, oh wait, I was taught that. That's kind of true. And so now I'm learning the other ways. Like,
so I just remembered my question. I appreciate that what you just did there because I needed to remember. So so you mentioned you did the body work, which was the health. I agree with that. Without health, there is no wealth. And then you went to the spiritual side and learned about sexual energy, which has to do with creativity and re-internalizing self-worth. Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So what kind of led you to finance next? Was it because you knew that this was something that you were still limited in? Or was it like, oh, this is the next thing I was supposed to learn in this journey that I'm on?
Like I said, those three things, I think the finance piece, they were all things where I really felt there was wounding.
So you just knew that was the next thing.
It was more like, okay. And also I had accumulated some money. I had some savings, and I'm like, I need to learn how to be smart with this. And for me, I haven't taken the traditional route. So I've always worked on my own. I've always done things entrepreneurial, starting with clowning. So, but within that, there's always a feeling like I'm free falling. Like I don't have, but then you hear about the 9-to-5s and these corporate, that's not it. That's not it. So I've always been very fascinated and curious for how to be a financially sovereign, being independently wealthy, whatever that means. It doesn't have to be a huge amount for me, but to be comfortable, to feel free, to feel like I have everything, to have money coming. I love the idea. I don't want to just have $1 million. I want there to be a flow of money. That to me is really
an engine. Yeah,
that's what I love about the project. It's a flow. So it wasn't the embodiment piece, body, and the sexuality piece. That was really a painful thing that I was dealing with. The money piece was more like just this kind of confusion, but also like a wanting, a desire to have more stability. Needless to say, I have zero family backup money. There's no family.
There's no Children of God fund there for all
My parents have 12 kids, bless their heart. They're 12. There's no money there. So it was a big deal for me to even have a son. I have a son now. And I also chose a partner. We're not together anymore, but he also has a great family financial situation that my son's going to be taken care of. He's going to be just fine. And that was a decision I made. I made sure if I wasn't going to have a baby with a broke person, I was like, I need someone who so that was a really smart thing for me to do, to think about. So anyways, the financial piece was more like, it was that third. So it's these three pillars: embodiment, sexuality, money. The three pillars that we walk on, 3 legs, not 2, but we walk on these every day. And they're deeply personal. How you are with your body is deeply personal. Sexuality, deeply personal. Your own creative life force energy. Your money, your wallet. You don't just go up to someone and ask them, how much money? You know your money, right? And they all have to do with your worth. They all have a lot of wounding collectively, shame, childhood imprints, right? So this has been stirring for a long time in me, is because these have been my 3 main topics of interest, is addressing these and getting healthy within these 3 pillars. And on these 3 pillars, then we can ascend into, or actually healing these parts of ourselves and getting good relationship to these, is the awakening. Some people are looking for awakening. They're looking for awakening by meditating, which is great too. Love it all. But escaping the world. So I've studied Tantra, and I'm talking the real philosophy Tantra for years, not the sexual Tantra, that too, but the real Tantra. And it's a household, they call it household spirituality. Like
Mm.
finding spirituality when you're doing the dishes.
I see what you're saying.
It's household spirituality. It's not about going into a cave and disassociating with life. It's about, Tantra is very about like, this body is, that's why they're so into the body. This body is our spiritual practice. So my point is that those three pillars have just been my most peak interest, and they're where the wounding is, and they're where the light comes in, and they're very day to day. Every day you interact with this. Your body.
I love that you called it like, this is what awareness really is. Cause like, I feel like a lot of people are stuck in the rabbit holes, you know, cause
Yes.
like people are talking about the different things that are happening to us. And then we get stuck on the discussion of the thing that is happening to us and thus perpetuating it, you know, or like living inside the cave or going down the rabbit hole and just living inside the rabbit hole itself. But you're saying it's like, no, it's all internal work to become aware.
I don't know anyone who hasn't experienced some kind of wounding or trauma with these three. So if we take care of these pieces, then awakening will happen. It's also a yogi. I'm a yogi, but it's the lower chakra energy. It's the energy of stability. That's the root chakra, money, stability, sexuality, also money. It's the flow. It's the water, second chakra, the embodiment piece, physicality. But a lot of, in our Western world, the wounding, a lot of it starts right there, and we got to work from the ground up. And the money piece is also a part of it. So these are my current passions. Is those three?
I love it. I love it. I don't share a lot about this, this part of my journey, but now that you're sharing, I'm seeing similarities, and I'm maybe connecting dots that I've never really connected in our conversation. Have you heard of Sacred Sons? The Sacred Sons organization?
I've heard you talk about it in our circles, but I don't know too much about it.
So that was a whole part of my life from, I'm going to say 2016 to 2021, I'd say, until I left to come to Arizona, maybe a year into Arizona. But it was a group of men that came together, and they would create these events, whether it was like on a weekly basis or once a month. And it was all about the expression of the traumas. So whether it's anger or sadness, shame, maybe sexual limitations. I didn't know what my limitations were until I went to this and started to go through the different things that they were providing for us, a path to be able to feel the things that we needed to feel.
Yeah.
My limitations had a lot to do with creation, like creative energy, which then I learned in Sacred Sons. I was like, oh, this is sexual energy. And you know what proved it to me? Like the moment that I was like, oh, this is real, is when they put me next to another man, like side by side, and took a picture and showed that when I was standing still, just straight up, my heart was in front of where my genital was, my penis was. So my penis was like, so like my heart was out in front of where my penis was, and my hips were like cocked back, like my butt was out. And I was like, and they told me like, you're standing like a female in that way. Like there's more heart center, which is great. It's not bad to have that, but for a man that wants to be masculine and be the masculine, I was like, oh, my whole structure is off.
Yes.
When I started practicing the structure of it, all of a sudden the energy started to change, like how I felt in my body. So just all that to say that I want to reaffirm this practice and the steps that you just mentioned there.
And the body is our map. The body is our map. I've been curious about this forever, but and I've studied alignment and different yoga things. And when you change your body, you change your life. I'm talking on a very visceral level. And so that's why the yoga practice changes people, because they're now holding themselves differently. The energy is flowing differently. They relate to the world. I don't do yoga much anymore, I have to say. I do the gym a lot, but the gym is my yoga practice. Yoga is mind-body connection. To me, I don't care what you do, just something to get these together.
I always call it alignment. Whatever the practice is, it's for alignment. For the whole thing to be in alignment. So like if you're going to try practices that you've never tried before, just make sure you're going into it knowing the intention, have clarity on the intention, and do some due diligence on who's guiding it. Because yoga is a very spiritual practice, and I've had people that have never done it before do it, and then they get like blasted open. Their heart gets blasted open and then they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And then they get like in a downward spiral. So all that to say, like, make sure you know what the intention is when you're doing these practices, or else you can find yourself going too hard or going too deep into it.
100%.
Good stuff. I'm so inspired by your journey and by your story, Tamar. When I first heard about it in our academy, I was like, I need to get you on a podcast and just talk about this journey, because it's such in the same vein of what I think is really important for the majority to start discussing right now, which is, are you the creator or are you the extractor? Are you the value, or are you needing something outside of yourself to feel something? And I feel like your journey really facilitated an awareness that is very unique, that allowed you to come to this other side. Obviously, not everybody was able to choose that path because of the suicide rate and just the journey of having to go through that growth. But you're a shining example of that. And I really appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable and share your experience, truly.
Yeah, I feel like when I look back, I'm like, what saved me? What got me? And I cannot say it's been easy. I feel like now I'm in my 40s. I feel like the fruits are finally being expressed. And I've always been a happy person. I mean, a positive, good-hearted person, but there always was this trauma. And it's something that layer by layer I've had to take off. And most recently, having my son and going through a breakup at the same time, it just took me down to the deepest, darkest. I came through the other side, and now I feel like a new person. But I feel like there was always this guiding light just guiding me home. And home was right here, though. It's right here. And one thing I will say to people who've been through something like this, which for me, then you come out into the world and there's all these different voices telling you this, telling you that. And in the spiritual community, this guru complex, this guru idea of falling. So I've done so much study. I've been exposed to so much, and I've never, ever given my power to this person to be it's the guru principle is nothing to do with a person outside of you. It has to do with finding the teacher within. The guru guides you back into yourself. I'm talking about the teacher guides you back in. Yeah. Or another way that I was explained to it is the guru. This is an ancient Sanskrit philosophy. Is guru means the weighty one, Right. So guru is the heartbreak, the challenge, the crisis, what's weighty in your life right now. It could be something positive. That's your guru. Again, we all have our different lessons to learn, but it's never this person sitting up with their robe or a teacher that knows it all. That's not the guru. It's always, and they just help. A good teacher points you back to yourself, which you do. And in all my studies, I'll say this, in the study around embodiment, sexuality, and now money, I always go looking for the answer, right? Oh, they're going to teach me. And in each and every one, without fail, the answer is there's no right answer.
I often get some students sometime going like, I want to hear your woo-woo bullshit. Give me the practical. Right. And I'm like, all right, hold on a second.
With you're like, there's so many options. You got to figure out what's your intention. And I'm like, oh shoot, I still have to figure out myself. With sexuality, I went in there, I want to learn, I want to heal this part. And it's learning each person is unique, and our desire even. It's all very unique, and there's nothing wrong with it too. Just don't harm another person. But your core desire and someone's sexual desire may not be yours, but it is, again, it's finding. And then with food and nutrition and embodiment, I went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York. And what did they start teaching? There's no right way to eat. I'm like, damn it. I wanted there to be one right way to eat. I could just heal my eating disorder, my disordered eating crap forever. No, there's no one right way. So everything I'm being taught is always gently leading me back into my own wisdom. And it's not the easy way, but it is the way.
I would say it's the only way. The only way is that you're going to know, right? I love that. What I often say is like, when you're doing your internal journey and you find the Buddha or the guru, kill it. Keep going. Keep going. Don't feel like you've arrived. I think that happens too. We connect a dot and we feel so confident in that dot that we connected, and we go like, this is the answer. Yeah. What I've learned in my journey is like, stay curious, because there is no right answer. There is no one answer. And maybe this answer you arrived in might be a limitation of your own choosing, right? And there can be something more. But yes, it's all, again, just to reiterate or to compound what you said, is go back to internal, bring it back in. Like, what does this body want?
Yeah. And in Tantra, the classic answer to every question is, it depends.
It depends.
And
Yeah.
we're alive cyclical beings, especially as a woman, are like, we are very connected to the moon and cycles, and like what's right for you one day is not right for you the next. It really, it
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah. Depends. So I know you've done a few things. You wrote a book, Postpartum Care
Oh
for New
yes,
Moms Over 35. Tell me a
yes.
little bit about your book and why we should buy it.
Oh, so that was another thing where, so I had my son at 40, went through a break. It was a very challenging time. So what did I do? I took that and I turned it into something beautiful. And
Mm,
I decided to write about it and share, women over 35, which is at that point, they start calling you geriatric. You're older.
yeah. Yeah. I heard that.
You're going through perimenopause. You're starting, the whole downward. And it poses a certain set of challenges, but also gifts.
Mm,
So I wrote this book a year after having my son. I was kind of at home a lot. I wasn't doing my work in the world as I usually did. So I just buckled up, sat down and wrote, had some help from some editors and put it together. And I love it. It's not so much my personal journey as it is just giving basic care tips. But another example where something really challenging hit me and I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's
But
make
it's
something
a,
happen.
there's studies that, because Ashley and I, we're trying now. I'm 39,
Oh,
she's 38. So
okay.
we're above 35,
Yeah.
but we've done a lot of research on this. And I think because of the last 30 years of pushing women to the workforce, I think
Mhm.
more and more people have started having kids later in life. And
Yep.
so there's actually studies now of women that had kids above over 40. And because now we have we have the historical data for the last 25,
Yeah.
30 years, those women lived longer into their
Right.
90s, as
Right.
opposed to women that had children when they were much younger, like in their 20s. So
Right.
it's a thing. I think it's actually, if anything, for your own well-being and health, it actually might be better for you in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a little biased because that's my experience, but
Sure.
I would recommend this book because of your own journey that you had and experience that you had growing up. I feel like this is going to be a very unique read, just to
Yeah.
be able to see it from that lens.
Yeah. And I don't go into my personal story there, but
Just how you
it's
view
such,
it, it shaped
yeah.
you to be able to write it. That's what I meant. Not that you're
Right.
going
But
to
it's
include
such
information.
right. Exactly. It's such a transformational time. Just, I think for women turning 40 and for men, it might be more 50, but there's this like kind of shifting. The season is changing. So to have a kid as that's happening is a very potent time. It can be challenging because
Mm,
literally it's not a bad, but perimenopause has gotten this terrible like reputation around that word, right? But it's a time of change. So to be going through that perimenopause, which it starts at 35-ish, it's like your body's starting to gear down, and then to bring in life, which is beautiful. It's You're dealing with a lot of these changes that could create friction, but
yeah.
could also be again alchemy for great growth and beauty. And I was going through extra challenging time, but I also speak to just the body image, like women as we get older, there's this thing around aging in our bodies and this and that. It's been such a deep topic to my heart because I've struggled with it, but how we can embrace that and be mothers and not rush back into the body. The body we had never will be. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I just went through a hip surgery, had a baby at 40, and your body does something that it's never done, and it's the one of the hardest things a human can do is actually be pregnant and have a baby, no matter how you have the baby, whether it's there's no wrong right way, but even having a C-section, that's a major surgery. So pushing a baby out of you is such a challenging thing to do, but it changes you and a deep, not just muscle, it changes you inside. So I look forward to you and Ashley and tell her that she has my, and yeah, use
Love it.
that book, use the
Yes,
resource.
I love it. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I love this. Thank you so much. I just want to thank you so much, first of all, for doing this. Again, it's one thing to do an interview about specifically like certain topics, but like you went very deep into your own journey and your own traumas. So I appreciate that. Truly appreciate that.
This is my jam. You could not get me
It's your
on here to talk
jam.
about financial stuff. I'm like, no, emotions, intimacy, attachment issues. Yes, this is my
I
jam.
love it.
Not a
So
financial advisor yet.
this is for entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
So if there's one last question that I want to ask, and I like to ask this because it puts people on the spot, but I think
Yeah.
it always inspires a good little sound clip. But if you're standing in front of 1 million people, okay, you're on a stage, 1 million people in front of you, you have 2 minutes. They give you the mic. You have 2 minutes to say something. What do you say to these 1 million people?
Oh gosh. Give me one moment. The first thing that comes to mind is the journey. The destination is not the destination. The destination is the journey. A lot of us are looking for something, but look a little bit deeper because in my experience, what we ultimately are looking for is freedom. And freedom looks different for everyone. So find what it is inside of you that makes you feel free and alive, and cultivate that inside yourself, right? We look for fulfillment, freedom in relationships, more money. Those are two big ones, relationships and money. But what we're really looking for, this is really big, what we're really looking for is a feeling.
Mhm.
We're looking for a feeling. Even with money, to have more money, what are we wanting? We want a feeling. So I'm very big on emotional regulation, cultivation, that it's never the thing out there. Or relationship. I want that perfect person. It's not about the perfect person. What does that person make you feel? What does it feel when you're with your beloved? That's where you get attached to, is the feeling. So find what is it that you want? What is it that what you want is going to make you feel? Focus on that feeling and cultivate that, and then you'll never want anything else.
Ooh, yes. You just explained the energy of exchange. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And that's what it is. It's like focusing on the right layers so that
I
you're not
do. I
stuck
do a
in your
meditation
limitations.
with people around intimacy and sexuality, and it's called finding your core desire. Because a lot of people, with intimacy, the thing, because intimacy has to do with another person. So you're always like, it's looking for a person. But what people are really looking for is a feeling, even in intimacy and a relationship. So there's a meditation, and I was thinking, oh my God, I could do this with money too. But it's a meditation where I guide people into a memory. It could be a memory or an imaginative experience, but something that's highly a peak experience with intimacy in their life. And they go into it, and then we drop the scenario and we focus on the feeling. And then
Right.
we really describe the feeling. Whether it's, so for some people, it's very different. For some people, it can be power. For some people, it's submission and surrender. Like, again, sexuality is so multifaceted. And then we really zone into that feeling, and that's what we want. And then we need to cultivate that so we can attract it.
Ooh,
That's
that sounds.
manifestation. It's not about getting what you want. It's about becoming what you want. Becoming what you
It
want.
sounds like a reverse EMDR.
Okay, I don't know too
Where you
much about
focus.
that,
Well,
but I
because
was
it's the
gonna say,
opposite, where it's the emotion
right.
and the memory. But yeah, sorry.
So I was saying, oh my God, I was even thinking, I was like, I can even do this with Otto on the call, but like going into the money piece, like a peak experience where you just like finance something really expanded for you financially, and it brought this feeling of just complete abundance, and then going into that experience, but then going into the feeling of what that brings you, and then cultivating that. Am I making sense?
Yes.
It's
No,
all about
100%.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like focusing on the emotion that's the actual money that's being transacted, is that feeling. And if we can cultivate that by becoming aware of it, we can find other paths that bring the same feeling that are more constructive or healthier paths.
Or
I
they'll
think
be
what happens.
attracted to us. The universe, it's a magnet,
Yeah.
right? But some people,
Yeah.
oh, I want to make this much money, so they focus on wanting, and what you get is more wanting. Wanting. It's about. It just struck me like lightning. It was like the universe doesn't give you what you want; it gives you what you are. So focus
Yes.
on what, again, the feeling state, the mental state. This, and then this will attract.
That's why I give the example of like when if you've been indoctrinated with the parasitic mindset and that's what you practice, and you go out into the world and start to attract or start to do the things in the world, you're going to attract more of parasitic siphoning tools or siphoning concepts. And you're going to go, yeah, this is normal. I'm just so used to that. Yeah, this makes sense. Everybody else is experiencing the same thing that I am.
Right.
But it's not, you're just attracting more of the limitation that you created for yourself because of that feeling. And I 100% agree with that.
And it's the same on the flip side of people that just keep creating the same story. It's not that these things are happening to them, it's that they're in this story, either around relationships or money. They're in this pattern, and it's within themselves, around even the richest people, the wealthiest people can be in a scarcity mindset, living like they have barely anything. So it's not about the number in the bank account. You teach this all the time so well.
I love hearing it from the students and from other people. You're on the vein. That's it. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. We're going to head and close it here. Again, if you guys want to get in touch with, if the people want to get in touch with you or like know more about your story or be able to get the book, is there a easy path that they can do that? Do you have a link or website?
Nourished with Tamar, Tamar on Instagram is an easy way. I was at one point really building my Instagram, but I do a lot of gut health, nutrition tips there. It's probably an easy way to just, you could always DM me, message me. And that's, yeah. And in the bio,
Awesome.
actually, because I work with the company, I'm a brand partner with Purium, and they have a whole 90-day ultimate lifestyle transformation. So that is something that people can find, again, gut health and all that embodiment piece. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
something that also
Love
people
it.
can find.
All right. Thank you so much, Tamar. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Thank you guys.
All right.